Hey everyone, Coach Simon here with Top Tennis Training, and in today's video we're going to do something slightly different. I'm going to be showing you my own serve transformation, something that I've been working on for really the last couple of months, but really modifying it in the last 2 weeks. Now, having not played that much tennis in the last 2 or 3 years, serving became the biggest issue for me, generating power. So I really kind of went on a quest of how can I get effortless power, how can I get easy power that will hold up throughout the duration of a match and of course a tournament. So the last 2 weeks I've been really putting in a lot of work on my serve and modifying it, and I'll show you a few different types of serves that I've come up with. So this is my normal service motion that I've been using really for the last 6 or 7 years. Platform stance, start out with the racket down here, have the racket drop and reach that power position on edge. Then we had more of the Sampras style, where I'm starting with my body weight on the back leg, lifting the toes on the front leg. From this position, dropping the racket and lifting the racket with the racket facing the ground, the side of the strings I'm going to hit the ball with. On this motion I also changed the position of my back leg, bringing it slightly further behind me so that I can coil the body much more and also get my hips moving through the baseline before I make contact. Then we had that modified hybrid swing where I start off with my racket down here and I just lift it straight into that power position as quickly as I can and then explode. I also changed the position of my feet on this serve, so I use that wide pinpoint or the narrow platform stance. And this is definitely the motion that gives me the highest consistency because so little can go wrong. It's just a very easy motion for me to go through, but it does take a lot of effort to get the power because of the leg drive. I'm really working hard with my legs, almost like a basketball dunk every time I serve. I also tested out the pinpoint stance and having my body slightly more open to the court, because I also felt that sometimes I was leaning too far and I wouldn't get that rotation, the uncoil with the body, and also I was falling off to the left side of the court. So by starting off in this position, it allowed me to stay more open to the court and actually have that uncoil motion much easier. Now in terms of just raw power and feeling that effortless, this is probably the service motion that gives me that feeling the most. But what I notice is when I then use the second serve or the slice serve, I don't get the same amount of spin and I don't have that same control on my kick serve when using this pinpoint stance. So ultimately it's still a work in progress. I still have some experimenting to do to find the right motion for me right now. In a few months that might change. I might feel stronger in the shoulder. I might feel like I'm getting more power from the platform. So more work is needed. I have to test out the different spins, experiment with hitting the different spots, because that will really help me determine which motion is slightly better for accuracy, for consistency, plus the power. But this is why it's so important to experiment, to see which motion works best for you And it might work best for you right now, and in a few months time you change it slightly, you modify it, and then you keep progressing that way. Because often players will get into this kind of rut where they're not serving well and they don't want to modify their motion. They want to get better at doing what they're doing. And there might be a massive problem with their service motion. It might be the leg drive, it might be the arm. Something is going wrong, but they don't want to modify it, they don't want to experiment, they don't want to change it. They want to keep doing what they're doing and just get better at it. And that's why their progress is extremely slow. So my normal motion, the one I've been using for the last 5 or 6 years, has been start down quite low, have the racket drop, get into this power position and drive with the legs using that platform stance. Now what I found during my matches was I was actually losing that pop from the legs. Because I rely so much on my leg drive, once the legs start getting tired, I wasn't able to drive on the serve, the power went down, and then it ended up putting a lot of stress on my shoulder joint because I'm forcing that racket head speed to come, but it's not coming from the ground up. So I started to modify the motion slightly and think about how could I get more power without putting in more effort, more force. And it ended up coming to, instead of having my strings like this, I would have my strings facing the ground. The side I'm going to hit the ball with would be facing the ground as I lift up, Federer style and Sampras style. Now once they reach that power position, the racket isn't facing either direction. It's very flat like this, and the racket drops in that flat motion. So with me it would be dropping on edge. This side of the racket would be going down first, and then I started working hard on keeping the strings down, the palm down to the ground, and then allowing the palm to open as I have that racket drop. So I worked hard on this, and it was giving me some success for a while. But then recently, because I didn't serve, I was injured for a while, when I started serving again, I wasn't getting any power even with this motion. I was really struggling to produce that power. The shoulder was weaker, the elbow felt bad, and actually I felt a lot of stress on my lower back. So I started tweaking it once again, and I started using a serve that I used many years ago. Now one of the things about my service motion and about all my technique in general, I've always experimented with different styles. So for a while I tried to serve like Roddick, and I realized that that wasn't working for me simply because it was stressing my shoulder too much. Then I started serving like more of a kind of a hybrid Spanish style where you start somewhere here and you come into the power position quickly. And that worked for me for many years, and I kept that style. So I would start off somewhere here, and instead of having the racket drop, I would go straight from this position to the power position, very similar to Alcaraz. And I used this motion for a while, and then eventually I ended up feeling like it was stressing my shoulder too much just because of the way I was lifting the racket from here to here. So I ended up changing it to the racket drop once again. So having the racket drop, being very loose in that racket drop, and getting into the power position. But then last week I was hitting serves, I was really struggling to produce that power, and I was thinking about all the motions that I've gone through. So I started trying out all the different serves, and actually the one that was working best that day was where I start with my racket somewhere around waist height or even hip level, and instead of having the racket drop, I was just coming from this position to this position quickly. So that hybrid swing. So once again, racket here, racket here. And what I found was I could really drive with my legs explosively by having my feet in that narrow platform or the wide pinpoint stance. So ultimately, the serve is a very individual thing, and it's hard to find the right motion if you're not experimenting. You should be experimenting. You should be working on different styles. Try the platform, try the pinpoint, try the narrow platform, try the different stances, position your feet slightly differently, because I can also have my platform stance, I can have my feet very aligned like a Boris Becker, or I can have my feet slightly further round like a Pete Sampras. So there isn't one style that works. It isn't one motion everyone has to copy. There are ways to modify the serve. You might have a very similar serve to someone else, but it might have that slight difference. Experiment with the legs. Experiment with the motion. Is it better for you to have that racket drop? Or is it better for you to go into the hybrid style? Experiment with the power position. See if this works better than having the racket on edge. All of this will help you to identify what works best for you, and more importantly, what works best for your body. Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to hit our hardest serves and remain injury-free, and especially when we're playing a lot of events back to back. We don't want to injure ourselves in the first or second week and have to withdraw from the next 7. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, smash that like button, Subscribe to the channel, of course, if you haven't done so already, and make sure that you turn on that notification bell. Signing off, Coach Simon from TTT. All the best and see you soon, guys.